update, make adjustments, fly again, continuing to add that capability. And so when you see that in 2008, you can go, well, what takes so long? And between 2008 and 2015, the company was really working on how do we even bring the costs down even more by doing something nobody else had even thought was possible, which is reusing for stages. And so that almost as important as that first launch is that first landing in 2015, because it really was a game changer for us to be able to be shooting for over 100 Falcon 9 launches a year. It's us being able to get, just like we had the Goes You mission this last week, we were able to return, the boosters and then get those back in flow so that we can start reusing them again. We are now reusing our boosters over 20 times. I remember in 2015, people were like, okay, we're going to shoot for 10, and now we're shooting for 20. And what's great about that is that you're really, really learning about the hardware and what wears out on hardware and what needs, and having better data on life for the hardware. As somebody that had been in the shuttle program, one of the things we struggled with having the 5 orbiters was really understanding for each of them what were the life leaders and what drove the critical characteristics, and making sure we had the runtime to be able to statistically determine the actions that we wanted to be able to make for the different on the different pieces of hardware. And what's great is that with us having so much data on life and launches and kind of what happens, and honestly, how much life we can have before we start having problems, and what kind of problems tend to be catastrophic and what are annoying. That's another important thing to know. This is just a wealth of data on this vehicle. So we are hoping that we in the future will have the same, we'll be building up that same wealth of data on Starship, because it's going to be very, very important for us to continue to learn and grow and make the vehicle more and more reliable with what we learn from it. But you can see along the way the succession of us continuing to expand the capability, add new capabilities. Obviously, the first human spaceflight mission was near and dear to my heart, because I had been the commercial food program manager at the time. But continuing to work on advancing the capability, and then, as you know, this last year we were bringing Starship online. Next slide. Okay, let me talk a little bit about Starbase. And Starbase, I tell people all the time, you gotta come out about every 6 months. The one thing about Starbase is we're always improving, changing, getting better. And so I've been there now for 15 months, and as we're going through some of these videos, I'll kind of be asking you to maybe think about, you'll see the differences along the way. I'll have you go through it. I'll say, hey, look at where there's some tents here. Those tents aren't there anymore. We are building a 1 million square foot gigafactory. We actually have a parking lot now, which everybody's like super excited about. We have a wastewater treatment plant. We have water towers. We have like water and we have homes coming in. So this is it's an old picture, but it's not that old. If you think about, this is maybe a year old. And if you think about how much, when you drive down Highway 4 now and you go and look at this, just remember this picture and what this looked like and where we are now. And then you need to come back again in 6 to 9 months and it'll be something a little bit different. Next slide. So as I've already given you a preview, Starbase is our premier location for doing production, tests, and launching of the Starship. We have steel that comes in on one side of the factory and segments that go out the other side and then are stacked in our high bays. And then the vehicles are tested at Massey's, where we have our test site, and then are taken down the road and launched, obviously, at the pad complex. So the goal there is to actually be able to have this end-to-end capability of building a rocket there, testing it there, and then being able to take and be able to launch it. These are all measures of keeping it as cost effective as possible. You know, stainless steel is not an exotic metal, but it's what we chose to build a rocket because it's not the most expensive metal. We can use it and be able to have a cost effective vehicle with stainless steel. If you do everything in the same site, you're reducing transportation costs. You're reducing, you know, the amount of movement of your hardware. You're able to save those costs there also. And so making sure that we're thoughtfully thinking about how to get the cost of the vehicle down so that we can keep on this, you know, the mantra that Elon's kind of started with us about low cost transportation to enable space exploration. Make us a multiplanetary species. You can't do that without it being low cost. So it's inherent in everything we do. We look at, you know, how do we have like the systems that can be able to capture and reuse the vehicles? How do we make sure that we have the systems in place to be able to take those rockets, be able to refurbish them, and then be able to get them out again? All that and being able to use the vehicles and have as much runtime on them as possible is part of that, keeping the cost per vehicle down. So we got, like Starship has twice the amount of thrust of a Saturn V. That's really just because it's huge. It's got huge tanks, huge gas tanks, right? So it's 400 feet high, fully stacked, and that also enables it. And so you need a large, sturdy pad to be able to deal with that. One of the other things that we've done is we have kind of an innovative pad design that also enables us to easily be able to launch, capture, reuse without a lot of refurbishment costs. Next slide. I just have a few slides here to kind of talk about. I want to underscore that we are making investments here. And obviously this is important and our location is important and the investment we're making here is important to us just because we want to be here. But we're also hoping that the people in the community recognize that, so they're also understanding that we're trying to, by us investing in the infrastructure, the ability to be able to build, test, and launch rockets here, that this is also an investment in you. It's an investment in the community that's here and the use of the folks that are here. So, you know, we just wanted to kind of show you how much money we've been spending and hopefully that you're seeing this annual gross economic impact. This is we just did updated our economic impact studies, and here's just kind of the gross numbers that the consultants have given us. But most importantly, next slide, to me, it's about investing in the people. So I always love this picture. We took this picture actually last fall, right before we were going to test the third mission. And you sometimes, when we're all in the heat of battle, trying to get everything done, to me, this is what I always call the goldfish moment. You know, you get everybody out there, we take a picture, it was actually super hot, and it took a little bit of time for us to get all in it, but when it's really the people that are there that are turning the wrenches, doing the welding, working super hard to be able to get the vehicle there, the path there, everything lined up, that is to me one of the biggest investments that we make. We obviously have a ton of We got full-time folks, we got contractors that we support that come in and help us with all the building activities that we have. But we also know that hopefully we are pushing those people and we want them to be living out in the community. Actually, about 50% of our folks live around Brownsville, and we found that 50% of our folks actually live out, and we call it the tail, but Port Isabel, South Padre, Harlingen, McAllen. Few folks actually drive 2 hours a day to come and work at SpaceX, which I think is amazing because we do not work short hours. So to me, they're not getting a lot of sleep time at home, but looking at the demographics of the folks that work at SpaceX, it is across the valley. Next slide. And I hope some of the folks in this audience have enjoyed being able to see some of the launches. Last one was a little bit cloudy. The one before was like super clear. I mean, I was on South Padre watching with a bunch of our folks, and I was like, well, I can definitely hear it, but I'm not seeing it. But we had some really good screens, and thank goodness for all that Starlink imagery and everything else, because we were able to see all the different facets of the mission. But we really hope everybody is enjoying these. To us, this is kind of a little bit of a celebration each time of all the hard work that all those people have been doing. And so to me, it's about not only celebrating for our group, but to me, kind of sharing it with the world. And honestly, as this is a national capability that we're building here, we're hoping that everybody in the US and around the world that will be using this vehicle gets to be there and celebrate as we keep going a little bit further each time. Okay, finally the first video. I always like when we get to the videos. You saw some of the amenities, and they're kind of use it as a recruiting video too, but we're trying to have Starbase be a community. Our goal is to have people come down and either become part of the Starbase community or join the communities around and make sure that, selfishly my goal is to keep the best people as long as we can have them working on Starship. And so having them feel like a home, in this community, in whatever community they're in, we work super hard. And when they're at work, we want them to feel like they're in a community also. If you saw your pictures, and just keep noticing as we're going through more videos, we've now got, you saw 2 high bays, we now got a 3rd high bay up. Where you saw 4 tents, We now have a gigafactory that's about 3 months probably from being finished out. And we've added a ton of housing for our employees. We've got about 400 people that are on site right now. So obviously we have to add amenities to be able to keep them happy there and fed and everything else. So we have new restaurants. You saw we have a dog park, but also things like gardens, places, parks, places for people that are there at work that they can enjoy. And so it is very, very important to us. Another thing you saw a little bit, the partnerships that we have, the volunteer activities that we work with the community are also very important. We have a partnership with the Turtle Inc., where we supply volunteers and also support to folks doing turtle rescue. And then when we find turtles in the jetties or along the beach or eggs, we use our hovercraft that come into South Padre to transport them over. I think that's one of the favorite things that they like to do. They take a couple turtles over and be able to take that across the bay. But that's just one of many activities that we've had. We have a beer garden where we have dinner and music once a week, and we just recently had Bart come in with a bunch of dogs that people are to have people come in and adopt, but our folks really, really like to feel like they're making an impact on the community, and so that's very, very important to them. Okay, a little bit more on Starship. I already, talked a little bit about twice the thrust, I'll say it one more time, twice the thrust for Saturn V, 400 feet stacked, the tower, it is the vehicle for our first human landing system on the moon. And for that's very, very critical, because for us to be able to do that, we have to develop and design and develop some key activities which will enable that mission. And so we have to do a fueling depot. What this means is we'll have basically a tank that will be flying around the Earth, and we'll be flying starships and using that as the on-orbit gas station, so that when we do our HLS mission, we'll be launching the Starship, having to go up, get fuel, and then that's what's going to give it the gas to then be able to make it all the way to the moon, do the landing, and the aggregation with the Orion spacecraft. And so these are going to be the missions that are going to be happening here from Starship, right? We'll be getting ready for us to be able to do our first human landing mission, along with obviously many, many other national security missions. Plus, meeting the needs of our commercial providers and other commercial needs, along with our own Starlink needs. We actually need the capability for us to continue to build out the constellations so that we can have renewed, added coverage in our critical areas. Next slide. Another video. I didn't want to blow you up. This video's pretty loud. I think one of the most fun things that working at SpaceX is that you really see and everybody appreciates the learning that's done every single mission. You know, for us, I mean, the first time when we demonstrated the hot staging, and then the vehicle, after it separated, it terminated, just like all other launch vehicles and across industry do. But I had somebody said, "Oh, the mission didn't go well," and I was like, "No, actually, that went awesome because we didn't know how hot staging was going to go. Obviously, we're always preparing for that the vehicle is going to fail safely and not hurt people, but it's this ability to be able to test and continue to, you know, um, push the technology farther with actual data with the testing is so critical. It's really what to me has enabled this vehicle to go from, you know, the first mission and the capabilities they had until, as you see in subsequent vehicles and the videos that you guys are going to be seeing, that we're able to demonstrate hot staging, get the Starship engines, the Raptors restarted, then be able to go a little bit farther the next time. And then as we all saw on this last mission, actually be able to do re-entry burns on both the booster and the Starship. So without that ability, and honestly, it hasn't been the easiest thing to work that with our federal agencies, but we've been working it together on how do you figure out a way that enables us to be able to do test flights. Obviously, assure public safety, but our idea of success may be a little bit different than yours. Our idea of success is to be able to continue to further demonstrate and learn from the mission and make the next mission go even more further as we're continuing to learn. At one stage, at our final stage, we would like to be able to target and be able to return the vehicles to the pad, but we want to make sure we're doing these demonstrations in safe locations before we go do that, right? This is actually the smartest way to develop, is to do this way to make sure that you're buying down the risk in safe places so that you're not going to potentially cause infrastructure issues on your demonstration missions. And so we do really appreciate that everybody's recognizing that. It's very novel. It's very novel. I think there's a lot of people, when I go out and talk with other industry partners at the very beginning, they'd be like, "Let me know when you guys are successful." And I'm like, "Hang on a second, aren't you seeing those SpaceXers jumping up and down?" Like in our brains, we're like successful. So, and when you think about what we've accomplished with that mission, you understand why we're jumping up and down. Okay, next slide. I know I'm running a little bit long here. So flight tests, I talked a bunch about why flight tests are so important to us. You know, every single test, we're continuing to kind of demonstrate another aspect of the mission that we need to have to be able to conduct our orbital missions, be able to return the vehicles, and we're continuing to buy down the technological capability on each mission and make it better each time. And so, obviously, first flight test was in April 2023, and if you think about it, our fourth one was in June. So let's go through the cadence real quick. First one, April 2023, second one, November, third one, March, fourth one, June. So you can see we're one of the other things we're trying to do is kind of shorten the time frame in between with which we need to work with our regulators, but also get our teams to be able to turn around vehicles, because that turnaround is so important for us to really be able to do what we want to do in the future. Constantly working to make things better. Okay. Okay, no sound? Okay, but you want to jump to the next slide? Might be. Okay. I had another flight for video. Can you go So we were pretty excited about the fact that we were able to get this. If you don't realize, like coming back in, you got 4 grid fins, and if you've seen it on flight 3, we tried to have the grid fins align us to be able to get back in, but us being able to do it for a little bit before we had to terminate, it allowed us then to be able to have our GNC folks then be able to refine the algorithms and then contribute to us obviously having this be more successful. All this data is like a gold mine to our engineers, right? The fact that we're able to go collect all this, have a better sense of it, and then be able to turn it around and roll it into our next versions of the vehicle. It's huge for us. Okay, I think we've gone through the last few bits of video. I'm giving you guys about 20 minutes for questions. So I think this is a small enough group that I could just kind of have folks stand up. Maybe if anybody that has a question wants to stand up and ask it, and then I'll just repeat it so that everybody can hear. Questions? Sorry.
My name's Chris. My background in neuroscience, and the optics are great for this stuff, but in recent times there's been some ecological and environmental issues pop up. And my question is, how is SpaceX approaching the precision of analyzing the environmental fallout? So, like, if something happens over there, the only thing we have as citizens is to call the campus in California, and half the time we don't get callbacks. For example, the hovercraft was running over Pelicans last year. They had some inexperienced captains, and some 1,000% not a word. So the question is, without this precision, how do you see the precision of the approaching Boca Chica and protecting the animals versus the black rainforest?
Yeah. So I luckily have a call a friend here, and first of all, I'd say we're always learning, right? So like you said about that obviously, pelicans, I think, are like, we all love pelicans, right? So, and honestly, doing something like that is not going to, I hadn't heard that we had done that, but doing something like that is not going to help our hovercraft either, right? So I think it's always about learning, and then learning how do you adjust and be able to operate in a safe environment. We have a crap load of instrumentation and are always monitoring and going and figuring out what our strategies are for mitigation. And that we have an environmental team that's working with Texas Parks and Fish and Wildlife. And before and after every flight, they come out and do walk downs, and we work together on strategies to be able to track, understand, and mitigate and understand. We're also, people sometimes think animals are actually pretty resilient sometimes, and so understanding how they react and adjust to us being neighbors there is very, very important. And to see is there's something we can do to make it better. But Elsie, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Condon from the environmental team here at SpaceX. As Kathy said, all of this is really important to us. We actually go through environmental assessments with the FAA, with the other federal agencies and local agencies that Kathy mentioned. We work with Texas Parks and Wildlife, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, we work with the Park Service, and we are required to do quite a bit of mitigation, including surveys for birds before and after launch. We also do monthly surveys so that we can have an idea of what is happening on the population level near starbase. We work with Sea Turtle Inc. to do pre and post-launch monitoring, for sea turtle nests, in case we find that before we close for a launch, if there's any nests or any stranded sea turtles, we'll work with Sea Turtle Inc. It hasn't happened yet, but if there was, we could use the hovercraft to transport them off the beach prior to launch. And as Kathy mentioned, we're trying to be good stewards of the environment as well. And if you do see something happening, you can reach out to Texas Parks and Wildlife. We work very closely with them. I also was not aware of any pelican issues. But you can also reach out to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We liaison with them really closely. So if there are issues happening, we need to address them. So, yeah, I think that sums that up.
And one of the things too, we do have like a community website. I mean, can you give the URL real quick to everybody? I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but that way at least you can come in if you're notifying, so that we have a local, we set up a local address where you can send, you know, any questions, information to, so that we can get back to you. But let me have Maricela say that.
Sure. It's externalaffairs@spacex.com. That's all it is. Externalaffairs@spacex.com. Or you can email me directly, and I have my card of Maricela, and it's with an S. Dot Cortez, as she found out earlier, at spacex.com. So either one of those two, I'm more than happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, I mean, if you're sending to Hawthorne, we're trying to have like a local contact for you, so.
Yeah, just to follow up with that question, so a lot of chatter about the agencies, but there's really not any direct portal or ombudsmanship currently. With a paper just came out that was published by a local ornithologist about the nesting and the launch in the spring, which has caused damage to some of the nesting areas. A lot of people laugh about that, as you know, you mentioned gold mine. This is a gold mine of data. Well, this is also a gold mine ecosystem, and so you said stewardship, SpaceX. So is there one individual, or is there like an entity that you guys have within your structure over there across the pond, across the channel, that like is actually, you know, sort of like the security kids? They ride bikes, they've got the teleports to satellite. Are there people that are actually just hanging out, making sure that this is actually ongoing and a strategy? You guys
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why we have the environmental team that's out there. We have local
so Texas
on-site,
Parks,
Texas Parks, Fish and Wildlife, yes, on-site folks, local folks that support us, that like our boots on the ground there, that we work with every day, every week, kind of understanding, like how we're coexisting, right? This is a model that obviously, you know, has been perfected somewhat at KSC, same kind of thing. Wildlife region, launch. One nice thing about launch vehicles and these wildlife regions coexisting together is we both don't want people around, right? And as you know, you can have development coming in on the coastal areas too, but we really like these. It ends up, though, both those activities end up being able to, we can work together to be able to figure out ways to coexist. But we are trying to be good stewards. We have folks that are there working it, and we're working with Texas Parks and Fish and Wildlife every day. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Heather Scott with Point Isabel ISD, Board of Trustees. I'm with our Chief Financial Officer, Christy Gonzalez, and our CTE Director, Dr. JJ Mendoza. We're very happy to be here. Thank you for taking the time to do this Q&A session. First off, we want to extend our gratitude to SpaceX and the BUS Foundation for assisting all schools in Cameron County with previously with 2 grants. So we're very appreciative of that. At Point Isabel ISD, we're very excited. We're about to end construction on a state-of-the-art CTE facility at the end of the summer, crossing our fingers. So our question is, how can we partner with SpaceX to help bring or strengthen our CTE programs that deal with construction, welding, engineering, to help ensure that our students are ready and can enter the SpaceX workforce?
So we actually have Justin Gillespie, who's in charge of our training department. The same email that Maricela gave us before, I would just suggest that we set up a session. We've done a couple of different sessions with local colleges, working together on what are kind of effective training programs, because obviously for us, 80% of our workforce is technicians, welders, like hands-on building, all that hardware that I was talking about, and working on the pad and all the different areas that we're working. So obviously having pipelines for people to be able to come in and working together in a way that, we can have a demonstrated program is very critical to us. So maybe reach out and we can have you guys come out and figure out, we are always looking for good talent. So if there's ways that we can get the training piece, I think having Justin have a conversation, we can talk about that. Okay?
Rich Bryan with Rocket Ranch. Question we had is where are we water situation? I know you guys have water development going on out there. You have going on. Some of the houses going right next to our property also. What if anything has piping water is possible?
So we are looking at several different options for, obviously we've had to come up with a solution for our activities and our housing on-site surveys ourselves. So we have a distribution system, our own water to be able to support our commercial activities. But we've been working with different local water authorities to say what is, the art of the possible along the way. Also understanding that that whole area is probably not going to be like a bunch of subdivisions, right? I mean, so we obviously have a major need. We'll have a major need for water delivery, supply for all of our needs. And we'll probably be looking at doing, looking at ways to be able to expand our corporate capabilities. But it's a hard trade, and we know I've learned a lot about water development over this last year, and there's definitely a price point where if you're bringing in new water systems for somebody to invest in it, because it's actually a pretty significant investment. It's also a significant investment if you're a public water utility and you do a line, you're stuck with the line. So it's kind of like, how do you deal with that? So I'd say we're not finished with exactly what we're going to be doing, but, as we find things out, we can definitely start more with the community around there, letting people know what the capabilities are. To me, it's kind of similar to what we've been working with, like Magic Valley on the electricity side. We're still looking at what are different options to be able to get water and sewer out. Okay, only one more though, because I think I got like 5 earnings. Go ahead. Yeah.
As you know, most of us have a fit, but my question is, folks they go over to visit round trip,
Yeah.
when they get over there, none of those facilities, they've got kind of care, obviously,
Yes.
so are you planning to have maybe a area or kind of setting that people might be able to talk to, just because there's nothing out about an hour drive.
Yeah, and that's a good suggestion. We're in some ways a little, like, we love people coming out, but we also know when you do that, like when we have to close the beach or whatever, that makes it really, really hard for people too. So, we're trying to we're figuring out the balance, but I think that's a good suggestion to say, but how, when people come all the way out, in particular, maybe like rest areas, something like that.
I have the easiest question.
Okay, good, awesome. Well,
The second question was, we were out last night for lunch on the road, and after a while, we felt like sand.
yeah, it's not, they're, obviously you're blowing, yeah, it's not, yeah, that's it. We've done sampling. I think like the first time we did launch, because everybody, we're all learning about what it feels like to do launches, right? So I know like the first time everybody was like, oh, what was that? Was that propellant? No, it's nothing. That's not what it is. But obviously if you're kicking up, if you're doing pressure, there's a lot of sand around different areas, and so it would not surprise me that you're getting flowing. Just please, if you're on the boat, stay out of the keep out zones, because we've one of our favorite activities is chasing shrimpers and like trying to make sure people are kept safe. And so yeah, if you enjoy it on the boat, we even had to, one of our folks on the second mission sent out a notice to everybody on site, oh, go out and watch from a boat. And I think our launch director had a heart attack. And I sent a note right after that saying, don't go out on a boat and like watch it from like here's all the keep out zones to stay out from the different areas. We will one day catch it in the chopsticks. I'm not sure it's gonna be this next mission, but we'll be building the trajectories to be able to. That's our perfect world, right? If you notice that those chopsticks are another innovation we have, right? Our ability to be able to guide it in, have it come in, and then capture it. But that chopstick is like our multi-use chopstick because it stacks the vehicle, it catches the vehicle, it does a whole lot of things for us. So, yeah.
My name is Andrew Clifford from Rocket Future. Thank you so much for doing this. Before my question, I just want to say not only have you created a community of folks working on the facility and the vehicle, but you've also created an amazing community of people that have come down here to watch it, pay taxes, live here, and it's a really, really amazing community, not to mention the international community that's following on this project, so thank you for that. My question is about the local economic impact. So aside from the obvious jobs, the engineers, welders, metal workers, etc., as Starbase continues to expand, what industries do you foresee SpaceX needing to pull local talent in from? You know, things that might surprise us, food service, I don't know, anything you can think of that might be surprising.
Well, we need all kinds of people, right? So we already talked about all the different things we have. So we actually have food capabilities that generate over 3,000 meals a day, feeding our workers. So you think about that, like local talent and foods. We have bus programs, we have shuttle programs on site. We need a bike shop. We have over 150 bikes that transport people around. We actually needed dog park people. We need teachers. Every kind of person that you could think about, we need. So everybody talks about the welders and technicians, but it's a broad group of folks that we honestly are going to need. So we're constantly looking for people that are super excited and wanting to work at SpaceX and actually want to be here and be contributing to us and our mission going to Mars. So thank you for the question.
Thank you.
I'm going to do you, and then I'll do you, okay?
Hi, I'm Mary, and I'm not starting with a union organization. I'm retired less than a year ago. So, having served the U.S. and the medical aspect, my question to you is, how have you partnered with the local agencies of hospitals to prevent the disaster? This is possible. So, how has SpaceX launched the kind of plan for the disaster management towards space base, but also around?
So, yeah, we actually have a monthly meeting with Cameron County Emergency Management on kind of the plans. Not only that, but like every test, we have to have joint tests. It's actually has been a part of our licensing regime that we have to be doing these and working together monthly together on, even how do you deal with the fire? We're at the end of a long road and everything else, right? So I say we are always having this discussion with the county about how to meld our resources that we have and theirs to work through different scenarios. So obviously, launch failure is one, and how do we deal with that? But then we also deal with hurricane preparedness, and we also work with the local hospitals on how do we have the resources to be able to take care of any emergency patients we have or situations. So I say it's at multiple levels that we're working, but we're required to have plans to be able to react and respond to these kinds of emergencies across the board. If you think about it, for us, we also like launching and landing in foreign areas. So we had to also have a plan for how we're dealing with like Starship and Indian Ocean, for example. So yeah, it's kind of a long, you have to think about all the different places we're gonna be. Okay, and I'm looking back to you, and then you, and then you. Go you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all for being here. I've been here over 68 years, and I've brought here at a young age. And I've grown up and reared in the commercial fisheries industry, so I've been part of the environment.
Mm-hmm.
And to his point, the species I've observed through all my activities, we are in their environment, and they adjust and move, and they multiply in thousands and thousands. And as we all get along, it's happening. And I haven't seen a problem with anything yet myself personally. And as far as the dust thing goes, here in Port Isabel, we've always had dust when the southeaster blows because of the spoil sites on Brownsville Ship Channel that facilitated the digging and dredging of that for years. But my question is, would y'all be willing to have your technicians that solve all your corrosion problems have seminars with our local entities, water district, electric, AP, et cetera, or, and communicate, have some dialogue with them about your solutions for the problems in the types of metals, maybe even the go to something flexible or plastics and things like that. That's somewhat of a suggestion, but thank you very much.
So we can go do that, and I'm gonna tell you, we haven't solved it. That's a problem that we would have solved a long time ago. I mean, it's a constant challenge, but I do think it's a good idea and something to maybe think about how to do, like lunch and learns or something with some of our teams and some of these things, just to kind of figure out how do we kind of exchange.
Your
data.
level of coping with it
Yeah.
financially and mentally is so far advanced to what we are.
Okay.
And it would be a plus. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Really enjoyed what's new.
Yes, I do know Sunny. Yeah. Sunny's great at a lot of things. He's great at a lot of things. So I do know that when I was in NASA at the time, we were actually looking at, well, you always want to be able to look at how do you have redundancy and be able to cover both. I'm actually fairly confident that Sunny and Butch will come back and start it. I think they're gonna work. I think actually it's always really tough when you have a new vehicle, getting everybody comfortable. We actually, when we had crew two, when we had demo two, we were up for 2 months and kind of went through a lot of the little reviews and everything else that, Steve Stitch and the commercial food program are now doing. So I know one thing, and I saw it with Sunny when I was working with her, is she was gonna make dang sure that that vehicle was okay for life. And she wouldn't have gone in it if she didn't feel that. And definitely Butch wouldn't have gone in without that. So I'm super glad you got to meet her, because I think she's one of my favorite people in the world. She has just been a huge role model for so many women, men, people across the world, and she's a super lady, super lady. the last one? Is it, am I, okay, well, last one, it'll be last one, okay. Yeah.
Is the future short photography gonna be showing a photo there? And secondly.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Same question is, with all the replacements of the tile, the new ones, they keep out, being taken up. Is there any way to stay with you in my office?
Maybe go hang out around the Indian Ocean, yeah, there may be some people that have some, honestly, but, yeah, I think we try to collect them, but I have a feeling there's a few out there on eBay, I've heard, so, we are still working through, like, the best way to capture. I mean, I know that there'd be a lot of people that would love to be designing a boat like that, but man, would that be, I mean, that would be a big boat, that would be, when we went through the initial, design and implementation of the barges, and, one of my, ex-neighbors in Clear Lake actually is the captain of one, and those people do heroic efforts, so you can imagine going out and capturing, close to 100 boosters, and not always the best scenes, but and hanging on to it and bringing it back into port. Those are really, really tough jobs, but I think we're trying to eventually get it back to land, because it kind of goes back to what we're saying, it's the quickest way to get it back to the production facility and be able to work it. I'm glad you brought up the tile though, because that's last mission, and this is a very, very important point about how we are continuing to learn from the missions. Like, we specifically left a part of the vehicle without tile so that we could get no kidding thermal properties of tiled areas, non-tiled areas, to really, really help us be able to perfect and here. You know what? I wish I knew exactly all the things we were doing. I definitely know they were doing a lot of the mobility stuff, but I don't want to give you a bad answer. So I'm actually, I was running around yesterday. We had testing, we closed the road, but I'm not sure I can give you the exact answer. Yes. So we're right now kind of on hold on that, because we decided, as we were kind of laying in the plans, we decided to go and invest in the housing and in the gigafactory, finishing up the gigafactory, and in the mega bay upgrades. So we always start off every year with like our million projects going forward. And then about in March, we go, oh no, like this is all gonna be like we gotta go figure out how much money we're gonna need to spend for all these projects, and so we kind of refine the projects. I'm not, well, and so that project may come up in a future time, but, we're still working out final design and how we're gonna be using that Rio area, kind of around where you guys are. Okay.
One quick question.
Yeah.
My name is Gene Waterford, I'm retired Board of Engineers, and I'm working with the Long Island Village Owners Association to get a study from the Corps, to a study funded from the Corps, to realign the GIW. The reason I'm mentioning this is a couple of your commodities, steel and fuel, would have a lower cost of transportation on that water. It could be delivered to the port grounds or what you say. But we need your help, if you're willing, to ask Congressman Gonzalez, as well as Senator Corning, to fund that study for FY 2025. If you do that for us, I would love your help.
Okay, that's, he's got it in, okay. Same person, because we reached out. Okay, and we are, this is a good time because we're kind of putting together our legislative asks right now, right? As we're getting ready for the new Texas session, and then obviously DC's gonna get eaten up, so awesome. You want the very last question? Okay, well, wait, and somebody had one, is that? Oh, okay,
Watching the U.S. Marshal unfold. 79 was the installation bid.
wow, you scuba dive.
Oh, you know.
You have to be there, that was like, I think the people that were there, they had like 3, and this shows how long ago, the VHS tapes, you know, like it was that, and then they would all go scuba diving, so scuba diving and fishing.
It was a rough life. You lived in a heaven.
I know. Okay, last question. Now we want, oh, yeah, it's gonna be tough, so one of the things, yeah. Yes. We are in constant discussions with TxDOT. I mean, our dream is one day, honestly, to improve that road. I mean, to us, it's just not safe. I mean, I feel horrible. I send almost 3,000 people down that road every day, each way, and it's just not safe. And so we are constantly working with them. Obviously, they're starting another round of repairs, but the big problem is when you do repairs and then we have to go down to one lane, it kills us. It kills us. And so in a perfect world, what we would like to do to figure out is how to have a 4-lane road there so that they will have to do repairs, but when you do that, you're still maintaining at least 2 lanes and traffic. And because having it continue to be a 2-lane road just kills us. I mean, if you can imagine the traffic, we've been doing traffic studies on that road, and we were up to like 8,100 people a day go down that road. So a 2-lane road, per TxDOT standards, when you get to 10,000 people a day, you're supposed to have a 4-lane road. And we really need to have that road upgraded. Unfortunately, and I worked in the federal government, so I can't bash my old federal government people, but the speed of this change is probably not going at our SpaceX speed, right? So we're really working hard with the state and the DOT to see if there's some way we can get it funded. We really need it for the safety of our personnel, but honestly, I feel like we need it for the safety of the assets that are in the Okay, last one. Because I know you guys are like, I'm overstaying my time here. Okay. Okay, awesome. We would love that too. We've been trying to figure out how to do that, but I think we're firm believers. If we keep trying, we'll figure something out. All righty, thank you all. Really appreciate you coming out.